I was molested from 6 to 8 years old, from an older girl at church.
They get toyed with,
The violation by all means.
Oh, number one.
I got molested in church by an older girl at the church when I was from 6 years old to 8 years old. While my mama was praising God, her son was in the back of the church getting forced to have fellatio at 6 years old. For 2 straight years, 2.5 years. Wow. Right now to this day, at 40 years old, I am right now. When the girl used to make me do it, right? See how it came about. First, I want to say that this is just my truth. You know what I'm saying? It's not to embarrass nobody because it's my truth. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in order to be violated, it got to be a violator. So this is not to embarrass nobody. It's the hardest thing in the world for me to do. It took so much for me to call my mama and tell my mama. You get what I'm saying? Mm. But it's like the fear that I always had of telling my mama, I got the same results that I was scared of from 6 years old to 40. The girl who molested me in the church, she died from AIDS when I was probably about 10 or 11. So from 10 to 16, I thought I had AIDS as a child and had to keep all this inside. But when I finally moved out my mama's house and I told my sister was the first person who know. And first, I want to say another thing I want to say too. I want to, my brothers, Brain Productions and JV, they always had a jealousy of me and my sister relationship. Mm. But the reason me and my sister relationship was so tight, she knew what happened to me, and she felt like she let me down. She felt like she didn't protect me. She felt like she didn't guard me. You get what I'm saying? She felt like, but I should have been up on top of that. You get what I'm saying? So it's like my sister, she covered me until she died. And my brothers, them just, they didn't know. You know what I'm saying? What was the reason of? But now, Brain Productions, JV, I'm finna give y'all the understanding of why the relationship Miss Mimi had with Boo Diesel was. I went through all middle school. I went through all elementary school, thinking I'm gonna wake up one day and be skinny. I'm talking about you. I'm the definition of real psychological strength. Mm-hmm. I had to go to the funeral of a motherfucker who molested me and watch my mama, you know what I'm saying, console the parent of the motherfucker who fucked me up. I'm 10, 11 years old, bro. 5th grade. I never forget this shit. I had to go to the funeral, get out of school early and everything. So me knowing you used to fuck with me and you just died from AIDS, what the fuck I supposed to be thinking as a goddamn child?
This is, it's heartbreaking, man. You hear a lot about girls who were molested. You don't so much hear about the boys that were molested and what that does. Like, we have a better understanding of what it does to a female psyche when something like this happens. But not so much about what it does to a boy. And I just, for anyone who has gone through something like this, like the emotional, mental, and physical trauma that you're facing, like, I don't have words for that. Like, thinking about it being my brother, my cousin, my kids, like you.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. And recently, well, not too long ago, I saw a post on Instagram by a young man who works with young boys, and he made a comment and talked about this on a little bit, and he was just saying that, you know, people don't understand how big of a problem this is, which I can 100% agree with. They just don't understand because the spotlight and this is not a competition, because the spotlight is placed more on, you know, female victims. So they kind of phase out or forget about the fact that men can be victims too. And a lot of young boys are victims, but because of how we are socialized, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but because of how we are socialized in America, something like this is not too frowned upon. People look at this and they try to make it seem like it's a badge of honor or some type of something that, you know, boys should have, or it's not a problem because, oh, well, you're a man now, you know, you got a notch on your belt. And it's not, and the crazy thing about it is it's not just men that would not be paying any attention to this. It's women. As he explained in his story, you know, his mom, his sister, you know, nobody is paying attention to this because they're boys. Boys will be boys. And, you know, if anything like this happens, not to say that this is what his mom would have did, but if anything like this happened, then, oh, you all right, you know. But in that post that I was speaking about earlier, he said that it may be that men or boys are, you know, touched or molested in the same way, or quote unquote R-worded in the same way or on the same level as women, if not maybe more. Now, I can't speak to whether or not it will be more, but I do think that there's a commonality in that number when you talk about boys and women doing things to young boys. But because it's not studied or reported, we kind of just sweep it on the table. And that's basically what all the comments were saying. They were just, I can't, how could you? Why would you even dare make a statement like that? This asinine, like, are you crazy? And he was just saying, hey, I work with hundreds of young boys, and almost every single one of them has a story somewhat similar to this. And I can tell you right now that I don't know too many men that I've come across and been, you know, friends with that don't have a story like this. You can even and you're not going to even hear about it most of the time because they don't look at it in a way that this was something that was done to me that was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like we talked about this a while ago, and we saw the interview with D-Ray and DJ Vlad, and how he was speaking about it. And when you can tell that he was dead serious with what he was saying, but Vlad, now you can think whatever you think about Vlad. I don't pay any attention to him. But anyway, he just busts out laughing. And you can see the disappointment in D-Ray's face. Like in his head, you can see the wheels turning. I can't believe this dude laughing at me, but I'm gonna play it off like it's not even that serious. But it is that serious. This is a hurtful situation. It is something very difficult to talk about. I personally have had my bouts with something like this when I was a younger kid. Now, since then, because I don't have a problem with expressing myself, I've been able to talk my way through things like this. And when I was a kid, it felt wrong, but at the same time, I didn't really know how to feel because I was so young. And it was somebody close to me. But the crazy thing is about this is, you know, as we talk about relationships and we have this back and forth that goes on online between men and women, and I always say a lot of our problems are closer to the same than they are different. This is one of those situations. I understand that, you know, men do these types of things to women, at a higher rate, especially when everybody's an adult. But we also got to take into account the adult to child situation, because men do things to children, and unfortunately, so do women. I can't even tell you how many times we will leave the house with the kids and some woman will come up and say something completely inappropriate. Something like, ooh.
Started in infancy.
Right. Infancy. Like, little baby, ooh, look at those lips. Ooh, when you get older, you better come find me, or something silly like that. You're saying this to a child, an infant, a baby. Now, the thing is, if a man were to say something like that to a little girl, we would all be able to clearly see that there is a problem with this, and that is very inappropriate. And this is something that should not be said. But for some reason, we have a situation to where women are able to skate past this. And this is why this is not really looked at. I just want to say to like all the men out there, like, if you went through something like this, because I can see comments on some of these posts that are like this, like, man, shoot, you was lucky. No, brother. Nobody's lucky going through that at that young age. This is not something you're supposed to be experiencing at that young of an age, especially not from some adult, especially not from somebody that you are supposed to be close to, somebody that you know. Like, and then you feel unprotected in situations like that. But again, because of how we're socialized, it's made to seem like this is okay. It's not that bad. You a boy. You all right. You got an Audi. You don't have nobody's penetrating you, so you should be fine with it. This is what you're gonna grow up to want to do anyway. So you should just take it and just say, hey man, you were able to do such and such when you were younger. But that is not something that we should be rocking with. This shouldn't be the thought process when we talk about things like this. This situation is something that needs to be discussed more, because we like to talk about things like sexual deviancy, and we like to talk about men and their they're wanting for, sex all the time, and men hopping from this woman to this woman and doing all this stuff. I'm not saying that this is something that is the for sure contributing factor to those things, but we might want to start looking into this stuff, because with the amount of men that I have talked to that have went through something like this, and you see how they act later on in life, or how they acted in high school and things like this, there seems to be somewhat of a correlation. I know that correlation does not equal causation, but this is something that needs to really be discussed, talked about, and studied. Just like we study everything else that happened with women, let's stop with the demonizing of men so that we can put off or push off to the side the things that men go through. Because at this point, yes, I think most people know that these things can happen to men, but I don't think that they know of the prevalence of these things happening with men. And that's a sad, sad thing that we have in society. No, I'm not saying that we should minimize what happens to women, but we also shouldn't be minimizing what happens to men just because they're men. That's very sexist. And it's very sad, because a lot of boys out here getting hurt. And I know a lot of times this conversation comes up and we like to say that, oh, it's men hurting the boys like this. Nah, the majority of the conversations I've had, and from what, like, the post that I was talking about and the things that I've heard, I could probably count on one hand out of hundreds of stories that I've heard that it was men doing something to these boys. It's usually an older woman or an older cousin or just some older girl at school or some junk like that. So we got to do better in this situation, because again, this is one of those problems that is more of the same than different.
I don't have anything to add. I just want everyone to know, if you don't say anything, you can't get help.
No.
you can't stop it from happening again. It just continues. Like especially like I feel like, and I think I'm wrong in my feeling, but I feel like when the boy is younger, it's easier to see it as wrong. Even though I've had, like I said, women approach my boys inappropriately about how cute they are and how, oh, you gonna be sexy when you grow up and all of this, and they're kids, they're babies. We're talking toddlers, little kids. But as boys get older and they start reaching like their teenage years, 15, 16 years old, you're looking like, oh, why are you upset?
Mhm.
This is what you're supposed to do. But if it was a 15 or 16-year-old girl,
Yeah, we'll clearly see what's wrong.
and I think
That
the blinders that we like to put on, pretending like this is what boys and men want, and it's not.
and this is what boys and men should be doing. I think this is a consequence of always painting men as just simple predators. Because if you look at a person as if they are always the dominator and always the predator in every situation, you will dismiss the things that they feel that they are having happen to them that they feel is wrong. You'll easily dismiss that.
And honestly, I think sometimes the boys dismiss it because,
Yes.
well, I'm 16, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Socialization.
But in reality, and we're seeing more and more here in the news, these female teachers
Mhm.
going after these boys.
Now the thing is though, if female teachers are doing this, and this is just what's being reported, why do we think that? So female teachers are females, right? And it's not just female teachers that can commit these acts.
Right.
Just regular females, just regular women walking around could be doing these things. This is not something that's just relegated to just happening in the schools. This happens all throughout the neighborhoods, just in society. Like,
It happens in hospitals.
exactly. So if we know that men can manipulate women, why do we not understand that women can manipulate men? We do understand that for sure because we've talked about it. And you can clearly see it. Women can manipulate women. So why are we acting like this should not, or this is something that does not happen in that particular part of the arena, the sexual arena? This is a heavy type of, conversation to even approach. And a lot of people probably aren't going to like it because they just feel like, well, men are just dangerous. They're dangerous. And of course they would do something like this. They're predators. But apparently some women are predators as well.
You have evil on either side.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't like to accept or acknowledge.
And if they would, then we could really move forward in progress because, all these conversations about who's more toxic and making everything out of a competition, it's not helping anything. Not helping anything at all. And again, if we just realize that there are just toxic people on both sides,
Right.
we could focus on the people who are not toxic, or we can point out the people that are toxic and maybe they can get some type of help so that they're no longer toxic. I would prefer that to happen because you just can't just remove somebody from this society. You can, but y'all talking about just deleting people off the planet. And I'm not talking about just in this scenario. I'm talking about in general, just people that are toxic. Of course, we got prisons. Of course, we got, people that just walk around and they will delete you by any means necessary. But I would hope that at some point, as the new generation is coming up, we can find a way to actually help people before they are deleted or just simply removed from society. Because all of these things that happen to kids form them into whatever adults they're going to be. And then unfortunately, the things that hurt them when they were a kid, I don't know why some of these people brain work like this. They repeat that cycle onto the next generation. And I don't understand that. I don't understand.
I've never understood that.
I don't have too much of anything else to say. You got anything else?
No, I just ask anyone, both sides, men and women, if you have suffered through this,
Talk to somebody.
please Even if that just means talking to a friend. I know sometimes we have difficulty with the whole therapy situation, but some of you guys have been holding this in since childhood, and it's affecting who you are as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to get it out.
You
You
do.
need to have a conversation about it. You need to purge it and deal with it so that you can get through life a little bit better. I've personally not experienced this, but way too many of my friends have, and I have watched them suffer through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always something that you can get through on your own. You need a little bit of help. And it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to be honest, and it's okay to cut people off who are not for you. They're not beneficial to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to add on to that, and then we'll get up out of here. Man, if you're looking at this situation, if something like this has happened to you, and you feel like, oh, it's not that serious. It is.
It is.
It really is. And while you may parade around like, oh, this is just something great that happened to me when I was a kid, I would encourage you to speak about this to somebody, because it could be informing your decisions when it comes to relationships today. This is not a good thing, and we have to figure out a way to stop this from occurring. But that's it. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Night.